welcome to Heavy D Storytelling. How are you doing today? Happy New Year! Welcome to 2021, guys. So we are going to be doing the synopsis.
Nope, no synopsis. Maybe we'll recap we'll recap where we are in the story. I guess.
Recap because we forget. But first we are doing the Bible, as you see right here. Then just a.
You don't have to move that thing.
I'm showing.
Makes it more difficult.
I'm showing them this. But then we are going to be reading
at least one, maybe two chapters.
At least one chapter of Ben-Hur, maybe two, at most three. So I'll move on to Heavy D.
Greetings and salutations. Thanks for being patient with us. We had some visitors over the weekend and we decided to take a break. Happy New Year, Rebecca. It is so glad to see you, but I'm glad to see you also. So that was a little bit of a misspeak right there. Love you, JJ. Rebecca says love you, JJ. All right, so in the last, I don't know if we call this episode or whatever, we finished the book of Judges. So the book of Judges ended pretty badly. They're basically in the middle of a civil war, kind of. And one of the tribes, I think it was Benjamin, didn't do too well in that. So we are going to begin the book of Ruth, which, if you were reading the Hebrew Bible, would be the end of the book of Judges. So, but just like I said when we began Judges, so Judges has a very cyclical history that it tells, and Ruth is a progressive history. So that is a history that kind of moves in a direction, and Judges moves in a circle. So you keep having the same themes repeated in Judges, but Ruth, we're going to change and we're going to go pointed in a direction. So let's just start with chapter 1. This is the English Standard Version of the Bible. Be sure and hit the likes and all the other little things that you can do to make me know that you like me, and that you like the Bible, and we're going to begin. Ruth chapter 1. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah. They went into the country of Moab and remained there, but Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. They lived there about 10 years, and both Mahlon and Chilion died, so that the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband. The Bible doesn't actually tell us who Ruth was married to, only that it was one of Naomi's sons, Mahlon or Chilion. This is verse 6. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law to return from the country of Moab, for she had heard of the fields of Moab, and that the Lord had visited his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she was with her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each of you to her mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each of you, in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, No, we will return with you to your people. But Naomi said, Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb, that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband this night, and should bear sons, would you therefore wait till they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is exceedingly bitter to me for your sake that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Then they lifted up their voices and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me and you. And when Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more. So the two of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. And when they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the women said, Is this Naomi? She said to them, Do not call me Naomi. Call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi, when the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. And that is where we will stop for today. That's the end of chapter 1. So now we're going to get into Ben-Hur, but first I need to kind of tell you where we are. So there's this dude named Messala, and Messala is really cool, right?
No.
Okay, Kimmy says no. All right, so Messala was making fun of Ben-Hur and the Jewish religion that Ben-Hur follows, and then Ben-Hur, he tried to assassinate the Roman governor.
No.
Oh, no, sorry, that was an accident. A tile slipped from the roof when he was looking down at the Roman governor that was parading by, and he wound up getting arrested. He was a galley slave for several years, and then he was adopted by a fellow named Arius, who eventually died, and now Ben-Hur is in, I think it's Antioch or near Antioch, in some village or something, talking to a sheik that lives outside of the village in a tent with his pasture and flocks and everything. And he is working at, he's going to be probably adopting the 4 horses so that he can participate in a chariot race that Messala has already pretty much committed to being in. So he's going to be competing against Messala in this chariot race. And now we're going to begin chapter 5. Of course, he hasn't actually been with the horses yet. They just talked a lot. And in the process, Ben-Hur has, on his way to the galley, he saw Jesus as a young boy. And even then, he was very much impressed with him. And then he bumped into Balthazar, who was one of the wise men. And Balthazar, and through other stories that he's heard that have mostly come from Balthazar, he has learned the stories of the Christ who is in Judea. So here we are. This is Book 5, Chapter 1. Messala doffs his chaplet. The morning after the bacchanalia in the salon of the palace, the divan was covered with young patricians. Maxentius might come, and the city thronged to receive him. The legion might descend from Mount Sulpius in glory of arms and armor. From Nymphium to Omphalos there might be ceremonial splendors to shame the most notable ever before seen or heard in or heard of in the gorgeous East. Yet would the many continue to sleep ignominiously on the divan where they had fallen or been carelessly tumbled by the indifferent slaves, that they would be able to take part in the reception that day was about as possible as for the lay figures in the studio of a modern artist to rise and go bonneted and plumed through the 1, 2, 3 of a waltz. Not all, however, who participated in the orgy were in this shameful condition. When dawn began to peer through the skylight of the salon, Messala arose and took the chapelet from his head in sign that the revel was at end. Then he gathered his robe about him, gave a last look at the scene, and without a word departed for his quarters. Cicero could not have retired with more gravity from a night-long senatorial debate. 3 hours afterward, 2 couriers entered his room, and from his own hand received each a dispatch, sealed and in duplicate, and consisting chiefly of a letter to Valerius Gratus, the procurator still resident in Caesarea. The importance attached to the speedy and certain delivery of the paper may be inferred. One courier was to proceed overland, the other by sea. Both were to make the utmost haste. It is of great concern now that the reader should be fully informed of the contents of the letter thus forwarded, and it is accordingly given. Messala to Gratus, Antioch, 12 Caljul. That's the 12th year of what? Shoot, what was his name? I can't remember. Anyway, all right. O my Midas, I pray thou take no offense at the address, seeing it is one of love and gratitude, and an admission that thou art most fortunate among men, seeing also that thy ears are as they were derived from thy mother, only proportionate to thy matured condition. O my Midas, I have to relate to thee an astonishing event, which, though as yet somewhat in the field of conjecture, will, I doubt not, justify thy instant consideration. Allow me first to revive thy recollection. Remember, a good many years ago, a family of a prince of Jerusalem, incredibly ancient and vastly rich, by name Ben-Hur. If thy memory have a limp or ailment of any kind, there is, if I mistake not, a wound on thy head which may help thee to a revival of the circumstance. Next, to arouse thy interest in punishment of the attempt upon thy life, for dear repose of conscience, may all the gods forbid it should ever prove to have been an accident. The family were seized and summarily disposed of, and their property confiscated. And inasmuch, O my Midas, as the action had the approval of our Caesar, who was just as he was wise, be there flowers upon his altar forever. There should be no shame in referring to the sums which were realized to us respectively from that source, for which it is not possible I can ever cease to be grateful to thee, certainly not while I continue, as at present, in the uninterrupted enjoyment of the part which fell to me. In vindication of thy wisdom, a quality for which, as I am now advised, the son of Gordius, to whom I have boldly likened thee, was never distinguished among men or gods. I recall further that thou didst make disposition of the family of Hur, both of us at the time supposing the plan hit upon to be the most effective possible for the purposes in view, which were silence and delivery over to inevitable but natural death. Thou wilt remember what thou didst with the mother and sister of the malefactor, yet, if now I yield to a desire to learn whether they be living or dead, I know, from knowing the amiability of thy nature, O my Gratus, that thou wilt pardon me as one scarcely less amiable than thyself. As more immediately essential to the present business, however, I take the liberty of inviting to thy remembrance that the actual criminal was sent to the galleys to the galleys, a slave for life. So the precept ran, and it may serve to make the event which I am about to relate the more astonishing by saying here that I saw and read the receipt for his body delivered in course to the tribune commanding a galley. Thou mayst begin now to give me more especial heed, O my most excellent Phrygian, referring to the limit of life at the oar. The outlaw thus justly disposed of should be dread, or, better speaking, someone of the 3,000 Oceanides should have taken him to husband at least 5 years ago. And if thou wilt excuse a momentary weakness, O most virtuous and tender of men, inasmuch as I loved him in childhood, and also because he was very handsome, I used in much admiration to call him my Ganymede. He ought in right to have fallen into the arms of the most beautiful daughter of the family, of opinion, however, that he was certainly dead. I have lived quite 5 years in calm and innocent enjoyment of the fortune for which I am in degree indebted to him. I make the admission of indebtedness without intending it to diminish my obligation to thee. Now I am at the very point of interest. Last night, while acting as master of a feast for a party just from Rome, their extreme youth and inexperience appealed to my compassion. I heard a singular story. Maxentius, the consul, as you know, comes today to conduct a campaign against the Parthians. Of the ambitious who are to accompany him, there is one, a son of the late Duumvir, Quintus Arrius. I had occasion to inquire about him particularly. When Arrius set out in pursuit of the pirates, whose defeat gained him his final honors, he had no family. When he returned from the expedition, he brought back with him an heir. Now be thou composed as becomes the owner of so many talents in ready sesterity. The son and heir of whom I speak is he whom thou didst send to the galleys, the very Ben-Hur who should have died at his oar 5 years ago, returned now with fortune and rank, and possibly as a Roman citizen too. Well, thou art too firmly seated to be alarmed, but I, O my Midas, I am in danger. No need to tell thee of what. Who should know if thou dost not? Sayest thou to all this? Tut, tut. When Arrius the father, by adoption of this apparition from the arms of the most beautiful of the Oceanides, see above my opinion of what she should be, joined battle with the pirates, his vessel was sunk, and but 2 of all her crew escaped drowning, Arrius himself, and this one, his heir. The officers who took them from the plank on which they were floating say the associate of the fortunate tribune was a young man who, when lifted to the deck, was in the dress of a galley slave. This should be convincing, to say the least, but lest thou say tut tut again, I tell thee, O my Midas, that yesterday, by good chance, I have a vow to fortune in consequence, I met the mysterious son of Arrius face to face. And I declare now that, though I did not then recognize him, he is the very Ben-Hur who was for years my playmate, the very Ben-Hur who, if he be a man, though of the commonest grade, must this very moment of my writing be thinking of vengeance, for so would I were I he, vengeance not to be satisfied short of life, vengeance for country, mother, sister, self, and, I say at last, though thou mayst think it would be first, for fortune lost. By this time, O good my benefactor and friend, my Gratus, in consideration of thy sesterity, in peril, their loss being the worst which could befall one of thy high estate, I quit calling thee after the foolish old king of Phrygia. By this time, I say, meaning after having read me so far, I have faith to believe thou hast ceased saying tut tut, and art ready to think what ought to be done in such emergency. It were vulgar to ask thee now what shall be done. Rather let me say I am thy client, or, better yet, thou art my Ulysses, whose part it is to give me sound direction. And I please myself, thinking I see thee when this letter is put into thy hand. I see thee read it once, thy countenance all gravity, and then again with a smile. Then, hesitation ended, and thy judgment formed, it is this, or it is that. Wisdom like Mercury's, promptitude like Caesar's. The sun is now fairly risen. An hour hence 2 messengers will depart from my door, each with a sealed copy hereof. One of them will go by land, the other by sea. So important do I regard it that thou shouldst be early and particularly informed of the appearance of our enemy in this part of our Roman world. I will await thy answer here. Ben-Hur's going and coming will of course be regulated by his master, the consul, who, though he exert himself without rest day and night, cannot get away under a month. Thou knowest what work it is to assemble and provide for an army destined to operate in a desolate, townless country. I saw the Jew yesterday in the grove of Daphne, and if he be not there now, he is certainly in the neighborhood, making it easy for me to keep him in eye. Indeed, wert thou to ask me where he is now, I should say with the most positive assurance, he is to be found at the old orchard of palms, under the tent of the traitor Sheik Ilderim, who cannot long escape our strong hand. Be not surprised if Maxentius, as his first measure, places an Arab on the ship for forwarding to Rome. I am so particular about the whereabouts of the Jew, because it will be important to thee, O illustrious, when thou comest to consider what it is to be done. For already I know, and by the knowledge I flatter myself I am growing in wisdom, that in every scheme involving human action there are 3 elements always to be taken in account: time, place, and agency. If thou sayest this is the place, have thou then no hesitancy in trusting the business to thy most loving friend, who would be thy aptest scholar as well. Messala. Chapter 2. Ilderim's Arabs under the yoke. About the time the couriers departed from Messala's door with the dispatches, it being yet the early morning hour, Ben-Hur entered Ilderim's tent. He had taken a plunge into the lake and breakfasted, and appeared now in an undertunic, sleeveless, and with skirt scarcely reaching to his knee. The sheik saluted him from the divan. "I give thee peace, son of Arius," he said with admiration, for in truth he had never seen a more perfect illustration of glowing, powerful, confident manhood. "I give thee peace and goodwill. The horses are ready. I am ready. And thou?" "The peace thou givest me, good sheik, I give thee in return. I thank thee for so much goodwill. I am ready." Ilderim clapped his hands. "I will have the horses brought. Be seated. Are they yoked?" "No." "Then suffer me to serve myself," said Ben-Hur. "It is needful that I make the acquaintance of thy Arabs. I must know them by name, O sheik, that I may speak to them singly, nor less must I know their temper, for they are like men. If bold, the better of scolding; if timid, the better of praise and flattery. Let the servants bring me the harness." "And the chariot?" asked the sheik. "I will let the chariot alone today. In its place let them bring me a 5th horse, if thou hast it. He should be barebacked and fleet as the others." Ilderim's wonder was aroused, and he summoned a servant immediately. "Bid them bring the harness for the 4, he said, "the harness for the 4, and the bridle for Sirius." Ilderim then arose. "Sirius is my love, and I am his, O son of Arius. We have been comrades for 20 years. In tent, in battle, in all stages of the desert we have been comrades. I will show you to him." Going to the division curtain, he held it, while Ben-Hur passed under. The horses came to him in a body, one with a small head, luminous eyes, neck like the segment of a bended bow, and mighty chest curtained thickly by a profusion of mane, soft and wavy as a damsel's locks, nickered low and gladly at sight of him. "Good horse," said the sheik, patting the dark brown cheek. "Good horse, good morning." Turning then to Ben-Hur, he added, "This is Sirius, father of the four here. Myra, the mother, awaits our return, being too precious to be hazarded in a region where there is a stronger hand than mine. And much I doubt," he laughed as he spoke, "much I doubt, O son of Areus, if the tribe could endure her absence. She is their glory. They worship her. Did she gallop over them, they would laugh. 10,000 horsemen, sons of the desert, will ask today, 'Have you heard of Myra?' And to the answer, 'She is well,' they will say, 'God is good. Blessed be God.'" "Myra, Sirius, names of stars, are they not, O sheik?" asked Ben-Hur, going to each of the four and to the sire offering his hand. "And why not?" replied Ilderim. "Wert thou ever abroad on the desert at night?" "No." "Then thou canst not know how much we Arabs depend upon the stars. We borrow their names in gratitude and give them in love. My fathers all had their Myras, as I have mine, and these children are stars no less. There, see thou, is Regal, and there Alteres. That one is Altair. And he whom thou goest to now is Aldebaran, the youngest of the brood, but none the worse of that. No, not he. Against the wind he will carry thee till it roar in thine ears like Aqaba. And he will go where thou sayest, son of Areus. Aye, by the glory of Solomon, he will take thee to the lion's jaws, if thou darest so much." The harness was brought. With his own hands Ben-Hur equipped the horses. With his own hands he led them out of the tent, and there attached the reins. "Bring me Sirius," he said. An Arab could not have better sprung to seat on the courser's back. "And now the reins." They were given him and carefully separated. "Good sheik," he said, "I am ready. Let a guide go before me to the field, and send some of thy men with water." There was no trouble at starting. The horses were not afraid. Already there seemed a tacit understanding between them and the new driver, who had performed his part calmly and with the confidence which always begets confidence. The order of going was precisely that of driving, except that Ben-Hur sat opposite Sirius instead of standing in his chariot. Ilderim's spirit arose. He combed his beard and smiled with satisfaction as he muttered, "He is not a Roman. No, by the splendor of God." He followed on foot the entire tenantry of the dower, men, women, and children, pouring after him, participants all in his solitude, if not in his confidence. The field, when reached, proved ample and well fitted for the training which Ben-Hur began immediately by driving the four at first slowly and in perpendicular lines, and then in wide circles. Advancing a step in the course, he put them next into a trot. Again progressing, he pushed into a gallop. At length he contracted the circles, and yet later drove eccentrically here and there, right, left, forward, and without a break. An hour was thus occupied. Slowing the gait to a walk, he drove up to Ilderim. "The work is done. Nothing now but practice," he said. "I give you joy, Sheik Ilderim, that you have such servants as these. See," he continued, dismounting and going to the horses, "see, the gloss of their red coats is without spot. They breathe lightly as when I began. I give thee great joy, and it will go hard if—" he turned his flashing eyes upon the old man's face, "if we have not the victory and our—" He stopped, colored, bowed. At the sheik's side he observed for the first time Balthazar, leaning upon his staff, and two women closely veiled. At one of the latter he looked a second time, saying to himself with a flutter about his heart, "'Tis she, 'tis the Egyptian." Ilderim picked up his broken sentence. "The victory and our revenge." Then he said aloud, "I am not afraid. I am glad, son of Areus, thou art the man. Be the end like the beginning, and thou shalt see of what stuff is the lining of the hand of an Arab who is able to give." "I thank thee, good sheik," Ben-Hur returned modestly. "Let the servants bring drink for the horses." With his own hands he gave the water. Remounting Sirius, he renewed the training, going as before from walk to trot, from trot to gallop. Finally, he pushed the steady racers into the run, gradually quickening it to full speed. The performance then became exciting, and there were applause for the dainty handling of the reins and admiration for the four, which were the same, whether they flew forward or wheeled in varying curvature. In their action there were unity, power, grace, pleasure, all without effort or sign of labor. The admiration was unmixed with pity or reproach, which would have been as well bestowed upon swallows in their evening flight. In the midst of the exercises and the attention they received from all the bystanders, Malik came upon the ground seeking the sheik. "I give a message for you, O sheik," he said, availing himself of the moment he supposed favorable for the speech. "A message from Simonides, the merchant." "Simonides!" ejaculated the Arab. "Ah, well, 'tis well. May Abaddon take all his enemies. He bade me give thee first the holy peace of God," Malik continued, "and then this dispatch, with prayer that thou read it the instant upon receipt." Ilderim, standing in his place, broke the sealing of the package delivered to him, and from the wrapping of fine linen took 2 letters, which he proceeded to read. Number 1. Simonides to Sheik Ilderim. "O friend, assure thyself first of a place in my inner heart. Then, there is in thy dower a youth of fair presence, calling himself the son of Areus, and such he is by adoption. He is very dear to me. He hath a wonderful history, which I will tell thee, come thou today or tomorrow, that I may tell thee the history, and have thy counsel. Meantime, favor all his requests, so they be not against honor. Should there be need of reparation, I am bound to thee for it. That I have interest in this youth, keep thou private. Remember me to thy other guest, he, his daughter, thyself, and all whom thou mayst choose to be of thy company must depend upon me at the circus the day of the games. I have seats already engaged. To thee and all thine peace. What should I be, O friend, but thy friend, Simonides." Number 2. Simonides to Sheik Ilderim. "O friend, out of the abundance of my experience I send you a word. There is a sign which all persons not Romans, and who have moneys or goods subject to despoilment, accept as warning. That is the arrival at a seat of power of some high Roman official charged with authority. Today comes the consul Maxentius. Be thou warned. Another word of advice. A conspiracy to be effect against thee, O friend, must include the Herods at parties. Thou hast great properties in their dominions. Wherefore keep thou watch. Send this morning to thy trusty keepers of the roads leading south from Antioch, and bid them search every courier going and coming. If they find private dispatches relating to thee or thine affairs, thou shouldst see them. You should have received this yesterday, though it is not too late if you act promptly. If couriers left Antioch this morning, your messengers know the byways and can get before them with your orders. Do not hesitate. Burn this after reading. O my friend, thy friend, Simonides." Ilderim read the letters a second time and refolded them in the linen wrap and put the package under his girdle. The exercises in the field continued but a little longer, in all about 2 hours. At their conclusion, Ben-Hur brought the four to walk and drove to Ilderim. "With leave, O Sheik," he said, "I will return thy Arabs to the tent and bring them out again this afternoon." Ilderim walked to him as he sat on Sirius and said, "I give them to you, O son of Areus, to do with as you will until after the games. You have done with them in 2 hours what the Roman, may jackals gnaw his bones fleshless, could not in as many weeks. We will win, but by the splendor of God, we will win." At the tent, Ben-Hur remained with the horses while they were being cared for. Then, after a plunge in the lake and a cup of arak with the sheik, whose flow of spirits was royally exuberant, he dressed himself in his Jewish garb again and walked with Malak on into the orchard. There was much conversation between the two, not all of it important. One part, however, must not be overlooked. Ben-Hur was speaking. "I will give you," he said, "an order for my property stored in the Khan this side of the river by the Seleucian bridge. Bring it to me today if you can, and, good Malak, if I do not overtask you—" Malak protested heartily his willingness to be of service. "Thank you, Malak, thank you," said Ben-Hur. "I will take you at your word, remembering that we are brethren of the old tribe, and that the enemy is a Roman. First, then, as you are a man of business, which I must fear Sheik Ilderim is not." "Arabs seldom are," said Malak gravely. "Nay, I do not impeach thy shrewdness, Malak. It is well, however, to look after them. To save all forfeit or hindrance in connection with the race, you would put me perfectly at rest by going to the office of the circus and seeing that he has complied with every preliminary rule, and if you can get a copy of the rules, the service may be of great avail to me. I would like to know the colors I am to wear, and particularly the number of the crypt I am to occupy at the starting. If it be next Messala on the right or left, it is well. If not, and you can have it changed so as to bring me next to the Roman, do so. Have you good memory, Malak?" "It has failed me, but never, son of Areus, where the heart helped it as now." "I will venture, then, to charge you with one further service. I saw yesterday that Messala was proud of his chariot, as he might be, for the best of Caesars scarcely surpasses it. Can you not make its display an excuse which will enable you to find if it be light or heavy? I would like to have its exact weight and measurements, and, Malak, though you fail in all else, bring me exactly the height his axle stands above the ground. You understand? You understand, Malak? I do not wish him to have an actual advantage of me. I do not care for his splendor. If I beat him, it will make his fall the harder, and my triumph the more complete. If there are advantages really important, I want them." I see, said Malak. "A line dropped out of the center of the axle is what you want." "Thou hast it, and be glad, Malak. It is the last of my commissions. Let us return to the dower." At the door of the tent they found a servant replenishing the smoke-stained bottles of Lebanon freshly made, and stopped to refresh themselves. Shortly afterward Malak returned to the city. During their absence a messenger well mounted had been dispatched with orders, as suggested by Simonides. He was an Arab, and carried nothing written. That's the end of chapter 2. Tomorrow we will begin chapter 3. I hope you're all enjoying Ben-Hur. We started a little bit late, so I don't want to get too far into this. Chapter 3 is called The Arts of Cleopatra. The first word is iris. So, The Arts of Cleopatra, and we will read that tomorrow. So, just real quickly, book 4 seems like it has 16 chapters in it, so that one Should take us a little bit of time, but not too bad. And I hope you're enjoying the story. And I'm gonna... Oh, it looks like we've got a picture to show. Here we come. Here it comes. Oh, here we go. The sound effects are free. Yay!
My hair.
Kimmy's gonna be a curly head tomorrow.
I'm afraid of
All right,
it.
so I hope you're having a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. God bless. Bye.